Good morning, welcome to Breakfast. You're with Charlie State and Naga Manchetti.
Our headlines today. President Trump formally accepts the Republican nomination ahead of the presidential vote in November, saying his opponent, Joe Biden, will be the destroyer of American greatness.
Your vote will decide whether we protect law-abiding Americans or whether we give free rein to violent anarchists and agitators and criminals who threaten our citizens.
In fear of his life, Manchester United captain Harry Maguire gives his first interview about his arrest in Greece.
I don't feel like I owe an apology to anybody. An apology is something when you've done something wrong. Do I regret? I regret being in the situation.
Good morning. More sporting events in the United States are called off in protest at the shooting of Jacob Blake. Some Major League Baseball players have joined the boycott, taking to the field in New York before walking off.
Good morning. We've got more rain in the forecast today and some thunderstorms, especially in the south, but the weather should turn drier, if a bit cooler, as we head through the weekend.
Good morning. It's Friday the 28th of August. Our top story today. Donald Trump says his Democratic presidential rival, Joe Biden, would destroy the American dream and give free rein to violent anarchists.
In an hour-long closing speech on the fourth day of the Republican National Convention, Mr. Trump promised voters that he would rebuild the US economy and claimed that a coronavirus vaccine is on its way. Here's more from our North America correspondent, David Willis.
Please welcome Ivanka Trump.
It's been a family affair, this convention, and it fell to Donald Trump's daughter Ivanka to introduce him on the final night of the Republican gathering. A billionaire businessman she described as a builder, an entrepreneur, and an outsider.
My fellow Americans, our First Lady and the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And onto the South Lawn to a rousing reception from an invited and unsocially distanced audience stepped Donald and Melania Trump. The White House, a federal building, a controversial, some have said unconstitutional backdrop for a political pitch of this kind. Donald Trump's appeal to remain here coming at a time of renewed racial tension and on the day a hurricane wreaked havoc on America's Gulf Coast.
My fellow Americans, tonight, with a heart full of gratitude and boundless optimism, I profoundly accept this nomination for President of the United States.
Calling the forthcoming election the most important in the country's history, Donald Trump called once again for the restoration of law and order in the face of protests against police brutality and racial injustice, some of which have grown violent. Like Richard Nixon in 1968, the message to white suburban voters is clear. Safety on their streets is at risk, and he's backing the police over the protesters.
The Democrat Party wants to stand with anarchists, agitators, rioters, looters, and flag burners. That is up to them. But I, as your president, will not be a part of it. The Republican Party will remain the voice of the patriotic heroes who keep America safe and salute the American flag.
Touting his achievements in trade negotiations, criminal justice reform and the Middle East, the president vowed to rebuild an economy ravaged by what he calls the China virus. Perversely, perhaps, given his criticism of the Black Lives Matter protests, he made this assertion about a voting group his party is nonetheless still hoping to woo.
That I have done more for the African-American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president.
There was no mention of Jacob Blake, the black man shot in the back by a white police officer in Wisconsin on Sunday, nor of the Trump-supporting teenage vigilante charged with murdering two people who were protesting that shooting. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Our North American correspondent David Willis joins us now. David, good to see you. There was no doubt, was there, that Mr. Trump was going to be storming out of the blocks when he gave his speech?
Very much so, Naga, and President Trump categorised this as the most important election in America's history. He said it represented a choice between two starkly different ideologies, viewpoints and philosophies, one that would uphold the so-called American dream, the other that would destroy it. And he sought to portray his Democratic rival Joe Biden as a Trojan horse of the radical left, himself as a protector of law and order, someone who would support white suburban voters against the ravages of looters and anarchists who have hijacked some of the Black Lives Matter protests here. The president vehemently backed the police over the protesters, and he said that many of the police here were noble, courageous and honourable. That, of course, following some protests in Wisconsin over the shooting in the back of a black man, Jacob Blake, by a white police officer.
David, thank you so much. David Willis there for us in Los Angeles.
The Manchester United captain Harry Maguire says he thought he was being kidnapped when he was arrested on the Greek island of Mykonos last week. The defender was found guilty of assault and attempted bribery, but has since been granted a retrial. In an exclusive BBC interview, he says he initially didn't believe the men who detained him were police and feared for his life.
Yeah, obviously they hit me a lot on the legs. It wasn't on my mind. I was in that much of a panic, fear, scared for my life.
You feared for your life, did you?
Yeah, for sure, all the way through it. Until I got into the prison cell, where, like I said, I felt relief when I got there because the guys who was in there already told me that where I was.
Well, we will hear more from Harry Maguire in a longer version of that interview. That's coming up in around half an hour's time.
A campaign to emphasise the benefits of going back to work will be launched by the government next week.
It will urge employers to reassure staff that it's safe to return by highlighting the measures they're taking to make workplaces COVID secure. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Leila Nathu, who joins us from Westminster. Tell us more about this campaign, Leila.
Morning, Charlie. Well, I think we can expect to hear a lot more encouragement next week from the government, particularly in the regional press, about going back to work, stressing the positive side of going into an office environment. It's worth stressing that this is aimed at offices. Clearly, there have been plenty of people who've gone back to other workplaces already and indeed who've been going in throughout. But I mean, remember at the beginning of the month, we heard the work from home guidance change to give employers more discretion in consultation with their employees about how to get people back in, and there are big implications for the city centre economies of people not being back in offices and on transport revenues too. We've had a warning from the business group, the CBI, that city centres are turning into ghost towns, so it's clear the government does want to stress the positive benefits of getting back to work, but there will clearly be a lot of nervousness, and for many offices, getting back to anything like full capacity with social distancing still required will be very difficult. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to see a return to pre-coronavirus levels of office working anytime soon.
Leila, thank you.
The authors of the authors of the largest ever study to examine children treated in hospital for COVID-19 have said it's vanishingly rare for young people to die from the virus.
The report published in the British Medical Journal identified which children were more likely to need critical care support, including newborn babies under a month old, young people from a black ethnic background, or children who are obese. Our science correspondent Palab Ghosh has more.
This is the world's largest study of patients with COVID-19, and it confirms that the overwhelming majority of those aged 19 or under don't get severe symptoms. The study looked at 70,000 patients who were admitted to hospital in the UK. Just 651 were children. 6 of those died, and all of them had serious underlying health problems.
I think the most important message from this paper is that children make up a tiny proportion of severe COVID in the UK, and that death with COVID in children is vanishingly rare. And what I would like to say is that these findings are really reassuring. And for myself as a parent, as a children's doctor, and also as a scientist, I find these numbers are extremely reassuring for parents who are about to send their children back to school.
The researchers also found that young people with black ethnicity and those medical staff classed as obese were more likely to need extra treatment, such as intensive care. The findings were seen in advance by England's Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty. They were part of the evidence he looked at when he told parents on Sunday that it's safe for children to return to school in September. Palab Ghosh, BBC News.
Most schools in England feel ready to reopen fully next week. This is according to the National Association of Head Teachers. Around 4,000 head teachers, mainly from primary schools, told the union about their plans to manage the risks around coronavirus, including additional cleaning and staggered starts and break times. The Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, said this should give parents confidence ahead of the new term.
In these extraordinary times, join me for a wild adventure from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. With new music by Hans Zimmer and featuring special guest artist Dave. Planet Earth, a celebration. Bank Holiday Monday at 8 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Let's talk to Jane, who's covering the sport for us this morning. Jane, good morning to you. There's been so much interest in what's been happening with Harry Maguire, and it's happened so quickly, hasn't it? What, over the last 6-7 days?
Yes, and this exclusive interview that our sports editor Dan Rowan got with the Manchester United captain Harry Maguire has just been incredibly revealing. He was found guilty of assaulting police and bribery on the Greek island of Mykonos last week. And then in this exclusive interview with the BBC, the England defender says he feared for his life when he was arrested by plainclothes officers and thought he was being kidnapped. He's been talking to Dan Rowan.
It was horrible. It's not something I ever want to do again. I don't wish it on anybody.
Who do you owe an apology to?
I don't feel like I owe an apology to anybody. An apology is something when you've done something wrong. Do I regret being in the situation? Obviously the situation has made it difficult. I play for one of the biggest clubs in the world, so I regret putting the fans and the club through this.
You've appealed and you've been granted a retrial, and as we've heard, that means that your conviction is effectively nullified. You're now an innocent man again in the eyes of the Greek legal system. How confident are you, Harry, sitting here now that you will eventually clear your name?
I have great faith in the Greek law. The retrial will give us more time to prepare, gather the evidence, allow witnesses into the court, and I'm really confident that the truth will be told and come out. I'm strong mentally and I'll come over this.
How badly hurt were you?
Yeah, obviously they hit me a lot on the legs. It wasn't on my mind. I was in that much of a panic, fear, scared for my life.
You feared for your life, did you?
Yeah, for sure, all the way through it. Until I got into the prison cell, where, like I said, I felt relief when I got there because the guys who was in there already told me that where I was, and obviously I was with my friend as well who was in the cell with me. So that's when I calmed down a little bit and the panic and anxiety had come away from me.
Despite everything you've said, the facts remain, sadly, that you were found guilty of abusing and assaulting the police and of attempting to bribe them. Given all that, how can you remain captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world?
Well, yeah, obviously you see a lot of reports going around, and it's such a huge honour to be captain of Manchester United, something I'm really proud of. It's a massive privilege to play for the club, never mind to be the captain. Obviously it's not my decision to make, but one thing I will say is how supportive the club have been from top to bottom. They've been great with me, and I thank them for that. Obviously we've had a long, hard season, a tough season. We wanted to get away for a break. Obviously we went out for a couple of drinks that night. I wasn't planning on going out every night and drinking. I'm sure we'd have had some great days and some great times out there in terms of chilling around the villa and going out to the beaches and things, but Like I said, I don't see myself as regretting going out there. I've been to Mykonos before, I had a great time. I've been with my family before, I had a great time. So no, I can't say I regret going out there. I just think I found myself in a bad situation.
You didn't need to be there. Looking back now, was that a mistake?
No, I think us footballers get a bit of stick for trying to stay away from everything in the public light. It's not how I want to live my life. I've always been really open. Obviously, I've seen a lot of things about security and things. I was away with my family, in couples. If someone wanted a picture, they can have a picture. If someone wanted something signing, I'd sign it. I didn't feel the need for that, and obviously, it's probably changed my mind on that.
I was about to ask you that. Is that going to make you act differently in the future, do you think? Will you think twice now about being as open as that, or even maybe going back to Greece in the future?
No, like I said, with Greece, I have nothing against Greece. Obviously, the few individuals who was involved on that night I'm not putting everyone into that category because I love Greece. I've grew up in that country in terms I've been with my family time and time again. Obviously, with the security, it's probably something that I need to probably look into. I don't want to do it. I don't want security coming away with me. I don't feel like I should need to, but in the current climate, like you said, and things and the situation I found myself in, would it have helped? Yeah, for sure.
Do you understand why Gareth Southgate withdrew you from the England squad, having initially named you after he heard that verdict?
Yeah, I understand. Obviously, I'm disappointed. I love playing for my country. I'm physically good. I'm mentally strong. Like I said previously, mentally, I feel like I can get over this. I'm a strong lad. I feel more for the girls who was on the minibus and my little sister, who were suffering the most from this. But no, I'm physically and mentally, I'm ready to play. So no, I'm disappointed, but of course I understand.
The appeal could take a year or maybe even longer. How hard will it be to have that sort of hanging over you?
For me, I'll move on, and I'm mentally strong enough at the moment. Like I've said, you probably speak to all my family and they'll probably say that I'm the one the best at dealing with it.
What sort of state are they in then?
Yeah, I think my brother's a bit of a lot more of a worrier than me, but he's getting better. My dad's been great, the support that he's shown. It's been tough for my mum, and been really tough for Daisy.
Harry Maguire speaking exclusively to our sports editor Dan Rowan there.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.